The countrywide shutdowns have hit many industry sectors quite hard, and one of them, the construction sector, which has been facing the threat of losing as many as 108,000 jobs in the next 18 months. The CEO of the South African Forum of Civil Engineering Contractors, Safcec, Mr. Webster Mfebe, joins us now on Skype to get his reaction on the President's address, as well as the explanation of what it means by Minister Ibrahim Patel. Thanks so much indeed to Mr. Mfebe for joining us. The last time that we spoke, you were hopeful that you would get some kind of relief. That has come, but did you get everything that you wanted?
No, half a loaf is better than no bread. Indeed, I've been canvassing very strongly for the return in totality of the construction industry, including the building section. However, we are aware of the concern of government of a blanket opening, and they are favoring a risk-based approach, which is the phasing in of the various sectors. And they are starting with civil engineering, which would include roads, bridges, water and sanitation projects, and works that support public projects that are already ongoing in terms of civil works. Therefore, that is a glimmer of hope, and we applaud the President for announcing the 500 billion package, which is underpinned, among other things, by infrastructure, and he mentioned the infrastructure build program. And the announcement by the minister today it signals the willingness and the understanding of government that the economy must gradually go back into operation in those sectors that have a multiplier effect. Civil engineering on its own employs about 70% of the workforce in the total construction sector. So what it means is that it will bring a much needed relief. In addition, Peter, what has not been mentioned is that the President mentioned a relief for 4 months of levy payers, not to pay levies. So by being contributors to the 70%, we will get the most relief which is needed amongst our members.
All right, so small contractors who perhaps building walls at private residences and things like that, will they be getting some relief from this relief fund?
Well, the details will be outlined. What it means in terms of that stimulus package, that construction is included. And I'm sure you have seen the Minister of Finance yesterday mentioning as well the importance of infrastructure in the economy and that of construction. What would bring relief is the actual work, because if work is opened, starting with civil engineering, that will be the best way of giving relief to contractors. But we're still fighting on and asking government to consider in that phase-in approach not to take too much time and bring building on board so that the whole sector is open to benefit everyone.
All right. I mean, this current lockdown has been quite long. Has there been some casualties already as a result of this lockdown?
The casualties, we need to put a human face to the statistics of that we are talking about. The casualties are employees who are not at work, who cannot get full salaries, who are dependent on the payment of the UIF, which does not pay all the monies. And the casualties also are those construction companies that are already in business rescue. As to whether they will survive the lockdown remains to be seen. So there are casualties. The casualties are therefore not only the workers, but the families of the thousands that are employed by construction, because construction, as I've said before, is the second biggest employer after agriculture in South Africa relative to its size. So the casualties are the people who are watching right now who are looking at their loved ones as to when they will go back to work.
All right. You began by saying that half a loaf is better than none, which means that this relief is very welcome. And as you said, 70% affected by the civil engineering sector. I just wonder now, when we last spoke, you said as many as 108,000 jobs could have been lost in the next 18 months. With this easing now, what kind of figure are we looking at now, do you think?
Well, we would look maybe around 50%, but it's early days, given the fact that the civil engineering sector employs 70% of the workforce in terms of the levy-paying entities, if you measure, you take that as a barometer. So a lot of workers will retain to work, but still we will watch very closely in terms of the impact that will have. Remember, even if civil engineering is allowed to come back, there are strict regulations that we still have to comply with. It is not just a blanket approach. We need to observe that. I have indicated that even if we open the sector in totality, for the sector to go back into full production, I estimate that it will take about 6 months for it to come into full operation because of requirements of social distancing, for example, in the workplace. So that is still a long way to go. 6 months up to the end of the year. And if the building comes on board, we might get quicker in terms of relieving the plight of the many sectors and the subcontractors and the supplier chain, the supply chain that sustains that sector.
All right. So if I remember correctly, when we spoke last time, you said that the construction sector, building sector is already, due to the nature of the work that they do, quite close to some of these lockdown regulations in terms of safety.
Well, come close to these requirements is the question of safety. And for the civil engineering industry, we are fortunate that we have already a fully functional and successful bargaining council. We had signed before a construction health and safety accord. What we are going to do is to invoke the terms of the
All right, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there. We're losing the link there to Webster Mfebe, who's the CEO of the South African Forum Civil Engineering Contractors, Safcec, in South Africa.